We could certainly use this wet weather. Meantime, the Iowa legislature is less than 3 weeks away from hitting its 100-day deadline. Lawmakers still need to pass a budget before the session can be over, and some Republicans have considered multiple tax increases.
Iowa Capitol Bureau reporter Isabella Warren is live at the state capitol. So, Isabella, what are the chances we see the tobacco taxes go up?
Possible, but it sounds more doubtful. Now, multiple bills have been proposed this session that would increase Iowa's tobacco tax, but so far, none of them have made much momentum. Well, earlier this year, Governor Kim Reynolds proposed increasing the tax by 65 cents per pack. Lawmakers never advanced that proposal. Republican Representative Brett Barker also introduced a bill that would raise the tax by $1.50 per pack. That, too, has struggled to move forward. And today, Senator Mark Costello told health advocates it could still take years for a tobacco tax increase to win enough support in the Senate.
Sometimes it takes a long time to get things done here in the state. I think that the idea of having more revenue is helpful, but this is something we've got to be trying to work on an individual basis with individual senators and get this done if we need to.
State health officials say tobacco continues to drive preventable deaths in Iowa. According to Iowa Health and Human Services, smoking costs the state about $1.28 billion in health care every year. Lawmakers also haven't raised Iowa's tobacco tax in nearly 2 decades. House Speaker Pat Grassley told me House Republicans want to ensure money raised from the tax would only be used for Medicaid funding.
We're just trying to be mindful of looking at what these tax increases mean to everyday Iowans as we make any decisions we would have when it comes to taxes. I would say from where I stand right now, it's probably less likely to move forward.
And a tobacco tax increase isn't completely off the table yet. Lawmakers could still add it on to spending bills that they need to pass before session ends. At the Iowa State Capitol, I'm Isabella Warren.
All right, Isabella, thank you.